A Pharisee walks through a crowded street with about 75 pounds of spices strapped across his shoulders. The sun is dropping. Shops are closing. Everyone is rushing because Sabbath begins at sundown. He is not headed to a banquet. He is going to a tomb. The man is Nicodemus. He once met Jesus in the dark because daylight meant risk with the Sanhedrin, the high council that judged religious cases. Now the same man steps into light with weight in his hands and a choice in his chest. He did not start brave. He started curious. John says, "This man came to Jesus by night," John 3:2. Short. At night he asked careful questions about new birth. At night he protected his name. At night he kept the conversation safe. Many of us live there. We pray in private, but we dodge faith talk when the group jokes. We read a verse before bed, but we hold back when a friend asks what we believe. Private learning is a start. It is not the finish. I think about a Monday I spent in a conference room with tinted glass. A coworker was being blamed for a delay he did not cause. I knew the emails. I knew the real story. My pulse jumped. I wanted to stay quiet, because quiet felt safe. Then I remembered that the meeting would end, but the story would keep living in someone's file. I raised my hand. I said one sentence that named the facts. The room cooled. It cost me a little comfort. It gave my coworker a clean slate. That moment taught me what Nicodemus is about to show us. When truth moves from night to day, it chooses a public shape. Here is the simple claim for this whole journey with him. Private curiosity must grow into public clarity if it is going to shape a life. That does not mean shouting. It means honest steps anyone can see. Nicodemus will take those steps in the space of one afternoon. The clock will press him. The weight will mark him. The act will reveal him. And we will see that courage often grows after we move, not before. Takeaway for today: name one place where your faith is still night only, and decide one small visible step to bring it into daylight, a conversation, a calendar block, a written note. Next, we'll step into the hour when the clock got loud, and the choices hardened the day of preparation, when delay was no longer an option. By midday, the city was moving fast. Markets were closing. Lamps were being trimmed. It was the day of preparation, the workday before Sabbath, when all chores had to be finished. The cross stood outside the city wall. Time was short. Bodies could not remain on a cross overnight because Sabbath began at sundown. The window for love was measured in hours, not days. John records a simple line: "Since it was the day of preparation." John 19:31. Short. That detail explains the urgency. Jewish burial followed a plain rhythm. Wash, wrap, place in a family tomb cut into rock, seal the entrance with a stone. Spices were used to honor the dead and manage odor in a small chamber. None of this could slide to tomorrow. There was no tomorrow for errands once the sun touched the horizon. I think about the afternoon my sister called from the hospital. Our dad had taken a sharp turn. The nurse said, "If you want to see him awake, come now." Work emails still pinged. A meeting sat on my calendar. The clock would not stretch for my plans. I had to decide what I honored first. I shut the laptop. I drove. Nobody praised the decision, but it was the right order. Crisis compresses time and reveals priorities. This is where Nicodemus and Joseph lived for a few compressed hours. Therefore they moved. They asked Pilate for the body. They gathered linen. They carried spices. They chose action over delay. Delay would have sent Jesus to a common grave. Delay would have honored comfort over love. Urgency did not make them frantic. Urgency made them clear. You and I face smaller versions of this every week. A friend texts, "Can we talk before my interview?" A neighbor loses a parent and needs help with dinner. A child asks a hard question at bedtime. The clock says you have 10 minutes before the next thing. The choice says you have one chance to honor a person made in God's image, person with God-given dignity. Honor does not always need a whole day. Honor needs a willing hour. Here is the simple practice. When the day speeds up, ask one question first. Who do I honor now? Then choose one task that matches that answer. Put it on the calendar. Send the message. Start the drive. Therefore, your schedule becomes a small altar place of commitment, where love gets a time slot, not just a wish. Reflection. When the clock is loud today, who should you honor first, and what is the next 10-minute action? Someone had to say Jesus' name in the governor's room. Someone had to ask for the body. Mark writes, Joseph took courage and went to Pilate. Mark 15:43. Short. That is not a small errand. Pilate had just signed an execution. Rome did not like loose ends. A council member walking in to request a crucified teacher looked like sympathy for a threat. It could stain a name. It could invite questions later. Joseph went anyway. He did not send a servant. He did not wait to see if someone else would step up. He asked. Then Nicodemus stepped into that courage and joined the work. That is how honor spreads. One person moves first, another person finds strength to move next. The ask opens a path for the rest. Here is why this matters for us. Asking is not just a form. Asking is an act of love. It names what needs to happen. It puts your reputation on the line for someone who cannot speak. Pilate could have refused. He could have delayed until the Sabbath started. He could have sent the body to a common pit. Joseph took that risk because love carries requests that cost. I think about a manager I know who walked into her director's office after a chaotic rollout. A junior teammate had done the heavy lifting, but was invisible on the credit slide. The manager asked for a correction before the all-hands meeting. She did not say, maybe next quarter. She named the contribution. She asked for the change. It cost social capital in the room. It gave a good worker public honor that shaped his career. The ask mattered more than a private thank you. Therefore, do not underestimate the holiness, set-apart goodness of a hard ask. It says, I am willing to be seen for the sake of what is right. It also says, I accept that this may change how some people see me. But it changes you too. It cleans your inside life because your words, your values, and your actions line up. So here is a small practice for this week. Write down one courageous ask you need to make. Keep it simple. One sentence that names the need. One sentence that honors the person. One clear request and a time to talk. Then do it. If the door closes, you still stood where love stands. If the door opens, you cleared a way for others to join. Reflection. Who needs you to make a costly, respectful ask on their behalf, and what exact sentence will you use? Nicodemus did not show up with a token. He showed up with weight. John says he brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 75 pounds, John 19-39. Short. That number matters. In the 1st century, large amounts of spices were used in rock-cut tombs to honor the dead and manage odor in a small chamber before the stone was sealed. 75 pounds was royal scale. This means Nicodemus spent serious money, called in help to carry, and chose to be seen while doing it. Honor is not a feeling floating in the air. Honor lands in choices you can lift and measure. The jars had to be purchased. The mixture had to be prepared. The bundle had to be hauled through streets where people could point and whisper, "That Pharisee is with him." Nicodemus risked wealth, reputation, and ritual convenience. He made the trade in one afternoon because love does not wait for a safer day. I think about a couple in our church who lost their first child near term. People sent texts and heart emojis. One friend did more. He took a week off without being asked. He arranged meals, handled the phone tree, and stood at the counter with the funeral director so the parents did not have to choose casket details alone. He paid deposits up front because "we'll pay you back later" still leaves a bill on the table during grief. He did not post about it. He lifted weight. That is what Nicodemus did at the tomb. Therefore, costly honor breaks the spell of spectator faith. It turns belief into carried burden. It moves you from "I care" to "I will shoulder what this moment requires." But there is another side. Costly honor will press on your pride. It may rearrange your budget. It may expose your name. That pressure reveals whether Jesus has your admiration or your allegiance, loyal commitment. Allegiance answers with a receipt, a calendar block, and tired arms. Here is a small practice for this week. Choose one person who is carrying a heavy thing and move a real weight for them. Pay the invoice they cannot face yet. Drive the late-night hour no one wants. Take the task that will not earn likes. Do it quietly. Let the cost teach your heart what love feels like in your bones. Reflection. What specific cost, time, money, or reputation would show love this week instead of only signaling it? Joseph and Nicodemus did not outsource love. They used their hands. John writes, "They bound it in linen cloths with the spices," John 19:40 short. That sentence is simple. The work was not. They had to lower a real body. They had to lift a real weight. They had to move with care and speed because sundown was near. Burial customs were plain in their day. The body was washed. The body was wrapped in strips of linen. Spices were placed between layers to honor the dead and manage odor in a small rock tomb. A final cloth went around the head. The men worked in view of others near the garden. This was not a private vigil. This was a public act with a name on it. Touching a corpse made a person ceremonially unclean for a time, temporary restriction from temple worship. This means a devout Pharisee would usually avoid the task. Nicodemus chose compassion over convenience. Joseph did the same. They accepted a waiting period before temple services in order to keep faith with love. Their choice shows order. People matter more than platforms. Mercy stands before optics. I remember the afternoon my brother and I dressed our grandfather. The hospice nurse explained each step. We moved slow. We buttoned his shirt. We combed his hair because he cared about that. It felt heavy and good at the same time. No one else could thank us. He could not speak. But the task gave him dignity. That day changed how I think about service. Talk is easy. Hands tell the truth. Therefore, the gospel presses us toward embodied care. Words matter. Bodies live and ache in real rooms. Someone must hold the other end of the sheet. Someone must make the call no one wants to make. Someone must drive the last ride home. Faith grows when fingers learn what love asks them to do. Faith deepens when shoulders carry what love assigns. But you may feel clumsy. You may fear doing it wrong. Start small and concrete. Write the checklist for a friend who is overwhelmed. Package the medications into a Monday through Sunday box. Sit beside the hospital bed and keep the log of vitals so the night nurse has clean notes. These quiet tasks build a temple of trust around a hurting person. These acts say you are not alone. Here is a simple practice for this week. Pick one act that requires your body. Cook a meal and deliver it warm. Offer to handle pickups for a neighbor's kids for 2 days. Fold laundry for the new parent who has not slept. Put it on your calendar now. Show up and finish the task. Do it without a speech. Let your hands carry the message. Reflection. Where can your hands carry love this week instead of your lips alone? And what is the first 5-minute step? Hiding ended at the tomb door. John hints that Joseph was a disciple of Jesus, but secretly for fear. John 19:38. Short. That line used to fit Nicodemus too. But linen and stone do not keep secrets. When you carry a body through a garden, people see you. When you buy 75 pounds of spices, shopkeepers remember. When you step toward a cross, you step out of cover. Jerusalem was a tight city. Streets were narrow. News traveled by doorstep and market stall. Council members were known by face robe and roll. Aligning with Jesus after an execution invited mockery, suspicion, and slow penalties that did not come with a memo. Invitations thin out, deals cool, side glances multiply, reputation erodes by inches. That is the cost that clung to Joseph and Nicodemus as they worked before sundown. I think about a teacher who decided to live her convictions at school with both grace and clarity. She did not preach in class. She did her job with skill. But she refused to shade grades to please a parent with influence. She advocated for a student who had no advocate. She declined a small cheat that would have padded test scores. She was kind and steady. It cost her 2 good references and a fast track to a role she once wanted. It gave her clean sleep and the respect of quiet colleagues who noticed. Integrity pulled her from secret to seen, and the soul relief surprised her. Here is the paradox. We fear visibility because we think it will squeeze our life. Often it frees us. Double life is heavy. You spend energy editing yourself in every room. You keep a running check. What did I say here? What did I hide there? When Joseph asked, and Nicodemus carried, the inside and the outside finally matched. Therefore, the burden of managing appearances fell off. They could be the same person in the council chamber and in the garden. That is a gift hidden inside costly obedience. But you do not have to announce yourself with a speech. Visibility is not volume. Visibility is alignment. It is the quiet consistency of doing the next faithful thing in the open. It is signing your name to a decision that reflects your Lord's heart. It is declining the benefit that would require a lie. It is putting your reputation in the same place your prayers already live. Here is a simple practice. Name one room where you still edit truth to stay comfortable: team meeting, group chat, family text. Decide one small, gracious action that aligns your outside with your inside. Keep it concrete. Approve the fair policy. Credit the uncredited worker by name. Offer the apology with no defense. Put it on the calendar and do it. Reflection. What single step signed, sent, or spoken would move you from secret to seen with grace this week? Years earlier, Nicodemus heard a sentence that puzzled him. Jesus said, "As Moses lifted up the serpent, so must the Son of Man be lifted up." John chapter 3:14, short. That night he nodded, but the picture stayed cloudy. Now he stood near a cross. The words met the scene. Lifted up was not a slogan. It was a real body on wood outside the city wall. The story behind that line is simple. In Numbers 21, Israel complained. Venomous snakes attacked the camp. God told Moses to lift a bronze serpent on a pole. Anyone who looked at it in trust lived. This means looking was not magic. Looking was obedience that showed trust. Jesus connected that moment to himself. He said the rescue pattern would repeat at a higher level. Nicodemus watched soldiers step back. He saw the sign over the head. He saw the nails. He saw the spear. The pattern locked into place. Look and live became believe and live. The symbol became a person. The act of lifting became the cross. The trust that heals moved from bronze to blood. Understanding arrived in the same hour as obedience. I think about a moment with a young dad in our church. He had heard many sermons on forgiveness. He agreed with all of them. But the message stayed in the night of ideas. Then his brother borrowed money and never repaid it. Anger tied his stomach in knots. One afternoon, he sat with his Bible and read the short line, "Forgive as the Lord forgave you," 3:13. Short. He called his brother. He canceled the debt. He set a boundary for the future. Only then did the teaching make full sense. He said, "I did not understand forgiveness until I did it." Understanding followed obedience, not the other way around. Therefore, faith is not a puzzle you solve before you move. Faith is a step you take, because Jesus already moved first. You may still have questions. You can carry them while you act. You forgive, and then feel the release. You tell the truth, and then sleep better. You return the item, and then your mind grows quiet again. Nicodemus honored Jesus, and then the night lesson turned clear. But do not confuse speed with faith. Faith is not rushing. Faith is doing the next faithful thing you already know to do. Pray the simple prayer. Make the call you have avoided. Confess the half-truth you told last week. Give the help you have delayed. These are small lifts toward the one who was lifted up for you. Here is a simple practice. Write one sentence you heard from Jesus that you have not yet acted on. Keep it short. Put one concrete action next to it. Do it today if you can. Then watch how clarity grows after you move. Reflection. What truth have you already heard that will only make sense after you act on it this week? Royal honor in a garden looks like jars of myrrh and aloes. Royal honor on a Monday looks like a calendar block, a budget line, and a steady voice. James puts it plain, be doers of the word and not hearers only. James 1:22. Short. This means love becomes visible through choices others can notice, not for applause, for care, not for image, for integrity. Start with your time. Open your week and pick one person who is carrying something heavy. Give them a place on your schedule before the urgent noise fills every gap. If you wait for free time, grief and stress will not wait with you. Nicodemus did not wait. He moved before sundown. We move before the day is gone. Then look at your money. Love costs. It might be covering a copay for a single parent. It might be groceries for the family between jobs. It might be funding a quiet project at church that helps kids read after school. This is not about grand gestures. This is about honest weight. You feel it when you send it. That is good. Cost teaches our hearts where our treasure lives. Treasure means what you value most. Now check your words. Honor uses speech to lift the low and right the record. Send the email that names a teammate's work. Write the reference that opens a door. Make the phone call that owns your part in a conflict. Keep the sentences short. Keep the tone clean. Nicodemus and Joseph used their hands, but their witness also lived in the story people told after they showed up. They carried. They cared. I think about a small business owner who once told me his weekly rhythm. Every Monday at lunch, he walks the shop and asks one worker, "What's one thing I can carry for you this week?" Sometimes he takes a late shift, so a dad can make a school play. Sometimes he covers a class fee, so a technician can finish certification. Sometimes he writes a note to a worker's family to say, "We see your sacrifice too." Revenue did not spike. Turnover dropped. The room changed. He said, "Honor built a culture. It also built my soul. Therefore, your royal honor is not hidden in a distant past. It is within reach by 5 p.m. tomorrow. Choose one person, one cost, one act. Put it where you cannot ignore it on your phone calendar, with an alert in your budget app, with a category in your task list, with a due time. Then finish it. Finishing is part of honor. Half-done help is not help. But what if you feel small or unsure? Start where you stand. Fold a load of laundry for a neighbor with a newborn. Sit with the friend in the waiting room so they are not alone. Order dinner to arrive at 6:30 so a caregiver can eat while the patient sleeps. These are not side notes in God's kingdom. These are frontline acts. Jesus called a cup of cold water seen and valued by the Father. This means nothing is minor when love carries the weight. Takeaway for today. Decide your royal 3-1 person to honor one cost, to carry one action to finish, and lock them in your week before tonight. Reflection. What one costly concrete act of honor will you put on today's calendar, and what time will you finish it? In one afternoon, Nicodemus moved from fear to honor. He asked when others stayed silent. He carried weight when talk was cheap. He used his hands to give a broken body dignity before sundown. Joseph walked first. Nicodemus walked with him. Courage grew after they moved. Understanding followed obedience. That pattern is within reach this week. Here is your simple path. Name one person to honor. Name one cost to carry. Pick one time to finish. Put it where you must see it. Then do it. Do not wait for a perfect feeling. Faith often feels clearer after you act. Scripture points the way. Let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and in truth. 1 John 3:18. Short. This means your calendar and your budget preach louder than your status update. If this journey helped you, share it with a friend who needs courage today. Drop your Royal 3 in the comments so our community can cheer you on. Subscribe so you do not miss the next episode, where we'll learn how to finish faithfully when the garden grows quiet and the stone is near. Reflection. What is the next faithful deed you will finish today, and what time will you do it?